Welcome back to Stu Structures. We're here for video 3 of building the coaling tower, so stay tuned. So welcome back to my channel. I appreciate you coming back and spending this time with me. We are here to work on the coaling tower for this video 3 in the series, and we're starting into a bunch of the detail work on this. You know that there's a lot of things that go into this to bring it back to life and to bring the whole building together, and it gives it a lot of interest in all the details. So let's just jump into the details and see how far we can get in this video. Now, to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and just show you what this looks like on a turntable. You know, after all the sanding and adding the spackle and sanding and adding all the spackle and gluing and doing all that, you know, with the paint on here, this turned out to be a nice looking basic structure. Now, like I said before, we're going to start with these light platforms on the top of the tower. Now, these each had 4 spotlights on them up here, and there was one on either side of this that lit up different parts of the yard at night so that you could see to make movements or to attach, you know, hook up equipment, whatever you needed to do, and these lit up the whole yard. First things first, I got to measure and see how wide these are. I need these to set back in between these concrete upright supports that are on this building, but I don't want them to be quite that wide. So I go through all my various plastic stuff, and I have these Tichy open grate platforms. Now, I can't remember years ago if I ordered these for this building or whether they were for something else, but they're a real nice quality open grate. You can see them here. Tichy really has nice products if you need to order windows, doors, or anything for your scratch builds. So once I have those, I cut those down to the width that I need. And you know, these will need more bracing, but I go ahead and put black paint on here, which was a little premature. The spotlights themselves, I really don't have the right type of plastics for this. So, you know, once again, I found an ink pen that it's slightly big in diameter, but I think it'll work for what I want it to do. So I just take the guts out of it and put it in this vise, and you know, I cut off one piece originally, and I'm just going to set it here on the platform and see what it looks like and determine whether 4 of these will work on there okay or not, if there's going to be little room, because remember, these would have swiveled and tilted up and down so they could be positioned in the yard. And I think these will work just fine, so I went ahead and cut 4 total to begin with and lay those on the platforms just to, you know, make my thinking seem like it was real, and they worked out okay, so I cut the other 4 as well. Now, these are a little rough on the outside, so I used that sanding block back there and my knife and just cleaned up the edges on all these so that they had a nice clean appearance. Now, you know, there's a whole lot of other plastics that I'm going to need to build the uprights and the mounts for these lights. So I'm just going through all my plastics. I found some of the smallest I-beam material I have, some of the smallest round stock that I have, and I have a couple of other evergreen plastics that I'm going to use as well. So I went through all those and, you know, just found some angle and you know, just a lot of different plastics so that I have strips and other things that I can use. So now I got to figure out how am I going to mount these on there and what type of a system is going to be used. And I thought, well, I can't just glue a dowel or something to this platform, and they would have had some type of a base on them. I'm not sure what it was. So I decided to go ahead and cut these real long strips and cut 8 of them so that they could cross the platform, and then I'm cutting all these 8 more for bases that will mount on those. And what I do is just come through and figure out exactly where I want the lights at and mount these strips across the open platform. With these this way, I get good glue adhesion because it's just tiny pieces of plastic that come up and meet that. And then I mount the center of the lights on those, or the lamp bases on those. And then I find the center points of those, because from there I'm going to have a single dowel that would have came up from that to meet the lamp assembly. So I find the centers of those and go ahead and drill just a slight indentation in these. I don't want to go clear down through the grate. I just want enough of an indentation in the tops of these so that the plastic dowel that I set in there will just slightly sit down in. It just, it's not going to be very strong if it's just glued plastic to plastic flat on top. There's just going to be a tiny point of adhesion. So this will just make sure it doesn't fall off easy. And I find one of the smallest plastic round stocks that I have, and I cut 8 of those because there's 8 lights. And I just cut them all to the same exact size. And these don't have to be very tall. I just want to give a little separation in the lamps and the deck itself. So then I come back and glue those onto the bases where the lights would be. And now I have, a basic base system to mount the lights on. So, now I got to figure out some other goodies. I'm going to mount the lamps above, but also how I'm going to brace this whole platform on the building. And, to mount the lights on there, I'm going to take some of this angle iron and I'm going to cut 8 of these the same exact width as the lamps, and I'm going to screw them, or glue them rather, onto the top of those round stock platforms. Now to raise the light up, I'm going to use the, I wanted a U channel, but I really don't have any. So what I'm going to use is the angle iron, and then I'm going to just slightly take some of the plastic off of the one side of it to make it a U channel. And I'm going to rig up this jig to set the lights up about as high as I want to, and then I'm going to glue 2, one on either side of each of those lights. And then you can see here, once that's set up, I can come back and mount these onto the pedestals. And at first I just did 4 to make sure that, everything was going to work out the way I thought it was, because I'm making all this up on the fly as I normally do. And then once I see that's going to work, I come back and do the other 4 as well. And you can see some of these are different angles and different, settings, because they would have been that way in the yard to light up various parts of the yard. They wouldn't have all been set at the same exact angle. Once I get that together, I just come back and hold it up against the building. And it's just to see, is this going to work the way I think it's going to? And I, thought, well, yeah, this is good. So underneath of this would have need more bracing to mount it to the building. So I found some of the smallest angle iron that I had in plastics and came back and glued 2 long strips, one on either side of the platforms. This does give me a little glue on the backside that I can mount it to the building, but there would have been more than that. On the end pieces here, you can see I cut out dog ears on the ends of them so that they could mount back in between the flat pieces on the bottom. And here's just a view of that from the bottom so you can see what I'm talking about. But basically that gives me an angle iron support all the way around the base. Now this flat piece on the back isn't really enough to glue it to the building, so we're going to come back in a minute and add something else to it. But the other thing on top is that we need some handrails now. And I don't know if these would have been necessary. Probably it was before OSHA that this thing was built. But the originals had handrails on there. I don't know if they were quite this large a diameter. But I went ahead and cut 6 poles. I'm going to put 3 on the front sides of these platforms, and the handrail on the top would have attached to the wall of the building itself on the back side, so I don't need stanchions on the back side. Although you could add those on there and it would give you a little more glue to add to the building to hold it on. Now underneath, the extra bracing we need under there is just going to be done with these small I-beams. And I cut 4 of these, the same for each platform, the same width that'll go under that angle iron and support the base. And then these would have had more angle iron at a 45 degree once they mount on the wall that would have came down and attached to that to support those as well. Now I need backs on these lights. These wouldn't have been open all the way through, so I drag out my circle template and figure out what size I need. Then I drag out some plastic and I just have a bunch of these exit signs. I think I paid 99 cents a piece for, and it's just a real thin plastic, but it's perfect for this. So I use my circle template and go ahead and draw those out. And, I go ahead and mark the centers on these as well, although you'll see in a minute that I paint over them before I get to the point that this would have made sense. But then I cut these out, and with a knife, cutting circles isn't the easiest thing to do, so I also take a file and just, file any rough corners or anything like that off of those, and then I glue those onto the backs of the lights. And since the basic assembly was done, I went ahead and just, painted these black. And I thought, well, they need something where the electrical wires would have came into them. So I cut these little tiny dowels and scraped the paint off the very center of these and mounted those dowels into the backs of those. And then, I went ahead and painted the whole thing black again. Now these would have also had, some clear on the front of them. And the inside, would have had reflective material of some sort, so I just grabbed some silver paint and painted the insides of these silvers to give the impression of that. Then I found some clear styrene and used my circle template once again and marked out the 8 circles that would have had the glass on the front of these, and come back with my knife and file once again and just treated these the same as I did the plastic on the back, and cut those out and filed them to where they were a nice round. And then I'm going to come back and glue those onto the front of the lamp assembly. And in doing all this, I have damaged the paint here and there as well, so I got to come back and just touch up paint on all this. But, once I do that, they're going to serve the purpose. I like the looks of these. They're maybe a little bulky, but, I could have added lights, but I didn't. In the future, I may wish I had. But for now, I think these are going to serve my purpose rather well. So one more scratch building small project for this building out of the way. This took, several evenings over the week because I'm working on other things too. But, this, if you're looking just to scratch build, sometimes just taking a few hours a day so you don't get frustrated with it and just doing a couple little things and thinking ahead to what you're going to do in the next evening is sometimes a good way to approach this hobby. There's sometimes when I work on things for a long period of time where I just get frustrated. And doing that is not good. It's not what a hobby is all about. So sometimes I just have to walk away from things, and then I come back to it later. That was not the instance with this, but when I was building the underside of that building in the last video, there were times when it was frustrating. And also there's times you need to just walk away and let glues harden up or paint dry or whatever, so that gives you the ability to do that to some degree too. But anyway, I just took a week to do this process. Now I am working on a couple other little things that we'll start to include in the next video. I think coaling chutes are coming up, and from the top of this building all the way to the bottom there was open grate platforms and stairs. I mean, they wrapped a good bit of this building and went from the ground all the way up. And it's a whole lot of work, and I had started on some of this years ago. I need to go through my stuff and make sure I've got enough parts maybe to finish building that and order a few things if I don't. But anyway, I brought up the Tichy. Tichy really is a good company. I mean, they're not paying me to promote this or anything, but I've ordered stuff from Tichy's for years and years and years. And they just have good quality products. They come off the sprues easy. They clean up with, the only place you really need to clean most all of it up is where you cut them off the sprues. They're just a nice cast plastic piece. So if you're ordering scratch building materials, that's just a good place to do it. Another place that I order from is Northeastern. Well, I can't turn it upside down to show you the name the right side up. But Northeastern Scale Models. Now, years ago, they used to make all kinds of kits as well. I mean, this is an old double-sided snowplow. In Grafton, they only had a single-side snowplow, so I'm going to have to kind of scratch build some of this to make it into what I want. But that's where I get all my, wooden siding and wooden parts. They just carry a whole nice selection of all kinds of stuff. And the other company used to be Grant Lines, and they were bought out. I believe, I'll look it up for you, but I think the company is called San Juan now, and they're out of the West Coast somewhere. And I've contacted them before and ordered a few things for a previous building off of them, but I need to get their catalog back out and look at them, because they have tons of windows and doors and all that types of things too. And you know, whether you need a wood casement window, or you know, if you're building something out of brick, they don't have the trim on the outside of the window. It's only set back into the brick itself. So there's different types of windows and doors. And both Grant Line and Tichy carry both of those types of windows and doors. Now, do they carry every single door that was ever made? No. I mean, you've seen in some of my previous videos, or if you haven't, you go back and watch some of them. But a lot of times the doors I need, they have something that's close but not exact, so I end up trimming or working on things. Or sometimes they have, you know, the little windows above or on the sides of the doors that I may have to scratch build and add 2 doors. And but anyway, it's a good place to work from when you're doing your buildings. So you know, just a point of reference for where to find some scratch build materials. I mean, a lot of people have, you know, sheet plastics and that type of thing. A lot of my I-beams and round stock and that kind of stuff, you know, I'm not a big fan of a couple of the companies out there or places to go, but I went on eBay and I just found, you know, styrene, whether it's ABS plastics, or there's a lot of different plastics. Some are softer than others that are considered styrene. And you know, on there, I mean, you could find a pack of like 25 or 30 for a couple of bucks of small I-beams in different sizes. And if you order 4 or 5 different sizes of I-beams all in the same package, a lot of times you can get them even cheaper than that. And you know, they have the round stock, they have I-beams, they have angle iron, you know, a lot of different things like that, or just basic sheet styrene. Now, when it comes to brick and that kind of thing, you're a little more limited. I think the last whole bunch of brick that I got was actually made by Walthers, but somebody else was selling it at a good price, so I bought it from them versus Walthers. And it didn't end up being exactly what I was in the picture that I ordered. It had a row every 10 feet or so of a brick on end instead of bricks the way they're normally laid. I went ahead and used it for the project. You really don't notice it in the project that I built. But you know, there's a lot of good sources out there. If you ever have a question about, you know, where I got something or something like that, just place it in a comment below. I answer almost all the comments. Every once in a while, I don't get notified when I get a comment. Here, since I've started back up again, it seems like that is more the case than being notified. So, you know, I don't know if people are on some of my older videos, whether I'm still getting comments. I mean, with the number of videos I have, I can't go back every day and go through every single video. I do my most recent videos now and check on those, because I'd like to, you know, respond to people. That always irks me when I ask somebody a question or something and I don't get a response. It kind of gives me a bad taste towards that producer of that video. You know, and it's not necessarily their fault. I understand that, but it is what it is. In any case, thank you for coming back and sharing this time with me. I do appreciate it. Tune in next week. If you hit the subscribe button below and hit the bell that notifies you when all my videos come out, then you'll be notified and you'll know when it comes out. I'm trying to get back on a Friday basis. I like getting them out Friday afternoon so people have the weekend just to, you know, touch base with me and share this time with me. So, you know, just break out some stuff, do some scratch building, and enjoy the hobby. Make something that you can't find in kit form, and you know, it's a whole lot more self-satisfying when you have something like that that nobody else has, that you can say, I built that, you know. So in any case, the point to all this is just happy model railroading.